Okay, good morning. Welcome to our celebration. So today we are celebrating 25th anniversary of Southeast Asia program at Asia Pacific Research Center. And my name is Gi-Wook Shin, and director of APARC, home of the Southeast Asia program. It's my real pleasure to see all of you today as we mark a quarter century of scholarly pursuit and intellectual exchanges on Southeast Asia at Stanford. So when the program was established in 1999 and then named the Southeast Asia Forum, it was a true pioneer. As I understand, ours was one of the first university-based program in the United States dedicated to researching contemporary policy-relevant Southeast Asia affairs. Over the last 25 years, the program has achieved its mission through multiple approaches. Of course, the program has conducted and disseminated research with clear implications and actionable policy prescriptions for decision makers. And among other things, I'd like to highlight our collaboration with NUS in Singapore to establish Reconsidering in a fellowship. So I think today we have many former fellows in this room, so welcome back and look forward to your sessions later. So we are very grateful to the Lee Foundation for making this fellowship possible, and also to our partners at NUS for their collaboration throughout the years. The program has also led and actively engaged in many outreach activities, fostering meaningful exchanges and collaborations with the scholars, professionals, and policymakers from Southeast Asia. I went to the region with Don, I think a few times, and engaging our scholars and policymakers and other people in the region. So today, of course, it's impossible to recognize the program's work and accomplishment without acknowledging the leadership of Professor Don Emerson, who has steered it with steadfast dedication and intellect. This morning I was debating whether I should wear a tie or not, because I wear only 4 times a year. And then, usually when we're having conference with Northeast Asia, they're very formal and I have to wear a tie. But I think whenever I go to a conference or event on Southeast Asia, you guys are much more casual, and I think much more friendly, I just say. But out of my respect for Don and also our president, I decided to wear, and then actually Don and I matched the color, so I think that's a good sign. But as a program director, Don has embodied the essence of multidisciplinary discourse, always probing and reimagining ideas and possibilities from multiple angles. So I can just share, one story about Don. Maybe, I don't know you wanted to hear, but so, we do a lot of, events, and, he always asks questions. And always give me a dilemma, should I pick his question or not? So I think about almost 10 years ago, Ban Ki-moon, then Secretary General of United Nations. So we had, very nice dinner in this room, about 100 people. We had like George Schultz and Condell Rice and Bill Perry and a lot of high-profile people. Then he raised in a hand. So give me a little dilemma. Should I pick his question or not? But then, he's my colleague for a long time. So I turned to Don. Okay, what's your question? You remember that, right? So you want me to say or you want to say? So he was saying that people say, it's a your title is a Secretary General, But I think a lot of people saying that you are more security than general. So what do you think? So I think that's your question. But I think, of course, he's a career diplomat, and then they handle answer very nicely. But I think that's done. He's very serious, but also has a lot of sense of humor. So he led this program for last quarter century. And once again, thank you so much for your dedication, your work, and your leadership. So let's give big hands one more time. So I think this conference today demonstrates our commitment to continuing our efforts to strengthen the Southeast Asia program here at the center at university. Okay, now it's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Stanford President, Dr. Lucia Saller. Dr. Saller became university's 12th president on September 1 last year. As you may know, he is a classics scholar who has served in many important academic leadership roles, including as the Dean of the School of Humanities and Science at Stanford, and also Provost of the University of Chicago, and as Dean of Social Science Division at the University of Chicago as well. A dedicated teacher, Dr. Saller has also published widely on Roman social, economic, and cultural history. So President Saller, thank you so much for joining us today. The floor is yours. Thank you.
So it's a pleasure to be with you this morning and to welcome you to Stanford. As those of you who have been at Stanford for years know, Stanford in the 20th century was really a profoundly Eurocentric university. When I arrived from the University of Chicago in 2007, it didn't take a lot of insight to recognize that Eurocentrism was an archaism and needed to be changed as we seek to understand the whole world. So I've worked to strengthen Middle Eastern and South Asian studies, and in 1999, as we heard, FSI started a program in Southeast Asia. I personally, though an ancient historian, I personally find Southeast Asia an important area and a fascinating area. There's no question but that simple size of the population and diversity of the culture, politics, and economy of the region make it important and essential for the United States to understand in greater depth. And so I want to thank Don Emerson for being the founder of the Southeast Asia program and the way it's added an important intellectual and cultural dimension to Stanford University. So Don, thank you. Unfortunately, I have other things that I have to tend to today, so I'm not going to be able to stick around for the conference. But I know that you're going to be today addressing some of the most important issues of the diversity of the region to understand it. So thank you very much.
It is, to say the least, awkward to speak after so much utterly unjustified praise. The reason that the Southeast Asia program exists, and I hope one might say it has been a success, is because of the work of many, 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 many more people than myself. And I want everybody to keep that in mind. It was a team effort. I'm very grateful for Gi-Wook's comments. I hope he doesn't mind, knowing me as well as he does, if I do have a little bit of a response, which has to do with what exactly happened when Ban Ki-moon was in this room, okay? And my memory differs a little bit. A former Secretary General of ASEAN, right, based in Jakarta, right, once said to me during his tenure as Secretary General that sometimes he felt more like a secretary than a general, which is understandable, right? I mean, you've got a lot of, well, and I won't even begin to try to defend his position. It was completely understandable. Professor Saller has mentioned the diversity of Southeast Asia, right? Exactly. And so with that in mind, what I asked Ban Ki-moon was, do you sometimes think of yourself as more of a secretary than a general? Which was an empathic question. I was putting myself in his positions. I did not say, some people say that you're more of a secretary than a general. I did not say that. I would not say that. That would have been somewhat insulting. So anyway, this is just to kind of correct the record. But thank you very much, Gi-Wook. I really appreciate that. And President Saller had to go on for more important business, but I also want to thank him very much for his, oh, he is still here. He's okay, he's moved to the side, right? Thank you so much for everything you've done for the university, in addition to your love of Southeast Asia, which I really appreciate, and your remarks just now. I really appreciate that. In fact, if I may just, I know we're going to waste a little time here, but an anecdote comes immediately to mind. Lisa Lee, the person without whom the Southeast Asia program would not exist at all, probably. She is the one who said to me, Don, we should bring the president of Stanford. And I said to her, are you crazy? The president of Stanford is a busy person. He's got a lot of things to do. You know, Southeast Asia, okay, I mean, he's way up there, right? And she said, well, let's try. And so we tried. And immediately, I swear to God, within 15 minutes after the invitation reached you, you said yes. I was amazed, I was impressed, I was delighted. Thank you, and thank you for your remarks. Now, my next task is to introduce Catherine Stoner. Catherine Stoner is the Mosbacher Director of CDDRL, which I'm sure most of you know is the Center on Democracy, Development, and the Rule of Law. But I think of her more as a friend whose interactive and ecumenical approach to knowledge has adroitly challenged the relative isolation of different scholarly units inside Stanford. Self-contained silos of specialized expertise whose denizens rarely venture across campus to learn from other silos. Catherine calls her innovative sessions, quote, drinking and thinking, unquote, which may sound cavalier, since, after all, excessive drinking can impede thinking. But sobriety is maintained, disciplinary limits are ignored, creative mutual learning occurs. And I hope that will happen as well in CDRL's latest anti-silo initiative to engage the business school in a program on democracy and capitalism. With admiration, Catherine, the floor is yours.
I also write things, so, but yes, drinking and thinking is mine, and you can blame that on me. So thank you very, very much for having me here. I'm really very much of an interloper at this conference. Most of you will know well, actually some of you, there's no reason most of you would know, I'm actually a Russia specialist. But Russia's everywhere these days, so why not Southeast Asia? Don poked his head into my office a few weeks ago and said, would you make some celebratory remarks at the Southeast Asia program conference? And I've never made celebratory remarks. I've done introductory. I've done conclusion. I've never actually done the celebratory part, although I suppose I've done toasts here and there. So I'm a rookie at this, so forgive me. But first, congratulations to all of you on the 25th anniversary of the Southeast Asian program, on its great research, its wonderful training, and certainly at the Center on Democracy Development and the Rule of Law, which is downstairs here at the Freeman Spogli Institute. We have benefited from the scholarship that you have done, and also from Don's presence. In fact, I was surprised to know that Don actually had an appointment at APARC rather than with us, because we think of him as ours. So today is, of course, not just 25 years of the Southeast Asia program, but we are pausing and celebrating also 25 years of Don Emerson at Stanford University. As Gi-Wook said, Don came from the University of Wisconsin-Madison to start this program and direct it. And he had had a very successful career there in the Department of Political Science. I met Don not long after I arrived here in 2004, and I soon discovered that he was one of a few other Russian speakers in the building. And I thought, this is fascinating. Why would a scholar of Southeast Asia be a relatively fluent Russian speaker? And the reason is that he is, some of you will know, but probably not all of you, the child of a career Foreign Service officer, American Foreign Service officer. And so this has meant that Don, and you just heard some of the erudite kind of speaking in full paragraphs. There are no ahs and ahs or likes, like I just used, in Don's speech. And this, I think, is because of the fascinating life that Don has led. So he has described to me what it was like to teach Soviet-era teenagers how to, it's jitterbug, right, in Moscow in the late 1950s? 1959, so very late 1950s. Now, as a Soviet-Russian scholar, this is fascinating to me. I can't actually imagine Soviet teenagers jitterbugging at all, let alone jitterbugging with Don Emerson and his sister in Moscow. This was pre-Khrushchev. This was it was Khrushchev, but it was pre the thaw, really, right? So it's a very unusual thing to have done. I think this interesting life Don has lived has led to the unfailingly creative and erudite upbringing of being a child of U.S. Foreign Service officer, and it's led to some creativity in his work. And I'll just give you a taste of this. Most of you, I bet, are much more familiar with Don's work than I, as a Russia scholar, am. But some of the titles of his articles. Singapore and Goliath is one. No Soul Control in the South China Sea. This is my favorite. Ready? Okay. Between China and America, is it time to try horsing the cow? I have no idea what that means. But it's a terrific title, and it is Don. Don is unfailingly honest. He describes himself as fluent in Indonesian, as having been fluent in French, with lesser competence in Dutch, Japanese, and Russian. I'm going to start describing myself that way as well, as having lesser competence and having been fluent in, for example, English. Now, as I mentioned, we've always thought of Don as CDDRLs, and if he truly retires this year, which he is threatening to do, we will miss his incredibly well-deserved, invariably thoughtful, well-delivered, and invariably thoughtful and original, sometimes provocative, but always inspired remarks, as Gi-Wook has already mentioned, at our seminars and our workshops, and yes, our session, Drinking and Thinking. We have another one called Cradle, which I can tell you about at the break. Don also has a collection, not just of colorful green ties, but of colorful shirts and questions. And we at CDDRL will miss him, should he actually retire, and he tells me he's going to write the story of his fascinating life, which I look forward to reading. As much as APARC, we will miss him, and SEEP, of course. So today we celebrate not just the Southeast Asia program's 25th anniversary, but also Don, to our friend and dear colleague. So congratulations, and I guess let the celebration continue.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. That was very kind. Appreciate it. And I apologize for having omitted your curriculum vitae. which is long, rich, fascinating, and I remember vividly conversations with you, particularly with regard to Putin, the situation in Russia. I learned a lot from you, and I'm grateful to you for that. Okay. Now, a decade ago, in November 2014, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, then leader of the opposition in his country, spoke on this very same stage in a panel with myself and my CDDRL colleagues, Larry Diamond and Frank Fukuyama. Frank, could you stand? So just wave. Good friends, good scholars, wonderful company. Anyway, with Larry and Frank, Anwar Ibrahim argued in favor of the idea in his lecture that Islam and democracy are compatible. At the end of the panel, I told the audience that Anwar would be leaving Stanford to return directly to Malaysia, where he faced the near certainty of being arrested and serving time in prison on politically motivated charges. Indeed, several months after his return to Malaysia, he was arrested and spent 3 years in prison. In November 2022, he began serving in his current position as Prime Minister of Malaysia. Now, we tried to get him to come in person. Needless to say, he is a very busy person. He's the Prime Minister of a major country in Southeast Asia. But we got the next best, namely a recording. At our request, he prepared a video statement that you are about to see and hear. And to save time, I think I will introduce the second. Maybe I should wait. Well, anyway, I'll introduce the second later. Let's go for Anwar first. We have one more video. This won't take too long. Bear with me. Perhaps we could show the video now. Is that possible?
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at the close of the millennium, the Southeast Asia program embarked on a vital mission, fostering understanding and collaboration between Southeast Asia and the world. Today, on the occasion of its Silver Jubilee, I extend my sincerest congratulations. It is a privilege to virtually revisit this esteemed platform, a decade after my previous engagement with esteemed scholars like Larry Diamond, Don Emerson, and Francis Fukuyama. Reflecting on the intervening years, one cannot help but be struck by the profound transformation of the global landscape. States today, regardless of might or size, must contend with a disordered geostrategic terrain amidst leadership discombobulated by a mix of political, economic, and environmental challenges at home and abroad. In this rapidly evolving landscape, Southeast Asia is no longer in the periphery. Our region's strategic significance places us at the crossroads of global trading networks and the epicenter of the Asia-Pacific. Our youthful population, weaved into a harmonious tapestry of cultures unlike any other, underpins our socio-cultural vibrancy. In the 21st century, this makes the fundamentals of Southeast Asia's economic dynamism, brimming with entrepreneurial spirit, collectively lending itself into the region's self-confidence. The Southeast Asia program's role assumes even greater importance within this reality. For the past 25 years, the program has served as a crucial bridge, facilitating discourse and collaboration between Southeast Asia and the world, particularly the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, collectively, Southeast Asia is the United States' fourth largest trading partner. and our combined market is valued at more than 3.5 trillion US dollars, representing immense trading potential. The thriving economic relationship is, however, seeing its domain increasingly encroached by geopolitical machinations. As a developing region, and as one that emerged from the clutches of conflict not more than a few generations ago, we unequivocally and irrevocably advocate for policies that mutually reinforce the nexus among peace, stability, and prosperity as opposed to zero-sum competition. More than ever, ASEAN has an indispensable role at the heart of Southeast Asia regional architecture. A strong and united ASEAN ensures that the diverse interests of its member states are reflected at the core of regional discourse while diffusing potential pressure by great powers. We aspire to breathe new life into ASEAN-led forums such as East Asia Summit, the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ADMM+. It is our hope that our partners, including the United States, whom ASEAN has a comprehensive strategic partnership with, will support us in these endeavors. For Malaysia, it is important to note that ASEAN serves as the cornerstone of our foreign policy and an indispensable platform for exercising agency on the global stage. Irrelevance, decline, or stagnation are unacceptable outcomes. And let it be clear that ASEAN's continued advancement is paramount to our strategic interests. In conclusion, as we celebrate the Silver Jubilee of the Southeast Asia Program, it is evident that the program's objective of fostering understanding and collaboration is no less important today than it was 25 years ago. In an era where global development is occurring at breakneck speed, the need for nuanced understanding and informed discourse has never been greater. The role that the Southeast Asia Program plays to foster understanding and affect discourse must be recognized. I have a trust that the Southeast Asia Program will continue bridging Malaysia, the region, and the global community, particularly the United States. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for those remarks. And the Consul General is here from Malaysia. I appreciate her participation in this conference as well. A decade ago, again, another decade ago, same time, 2014. A decade ago, Thailand suffered its 12th coup since becoming a constitutional monarchy in 1932. Last year, a brave U.S. educated at an institution on the East Coast, begins with an H, I don't remember exactly. Anyway, a U.S. educated Thai politician, Pita Limjaroenrat, led his Move Forward Party, that was the name, Move Forward Party, to win a national election and become the country's largest party. The government, still linked to the military, prevented Pita from becoming prime minister. But he remains an elected member of the House of Representatives, and his video statement will come next. And I have to admit that we, again, in his case, wanted him to come in person. In his instance, it was not that he was busy. It was the possibility either that he would be jailed before he could come, or that having come, he could not get back to Thailand. Fortunately, those two contingencies did not occur. And so we got a voicemail message, so to speak, as well, a video statement, which we will now show. This is from Pita Limjarungrat.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Bangkok. I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to Professor Don Emerson for granting me the opportunity to address this conference commemorating the 25th anniversary of Southeast Asia Studies at Stanford. It is truly an honor to be part of this intellectual gathering, albeit remotely, through a video message. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend in person due to the ongoing case with the Constitutional Court, which is deliberating on whether to dissolve the Move Forward Party. By the time you hear my message, I may no longer be serving as a member of parliament of the largest party in Thailand. For this, I hope you stand in solidarity with us. Over the past 2 years, our policy team has scrutinized Thailand's foreign policy and studied regional challenges and opportunities, giving me a deeper understanding on what ASEAN needs to effectively carry forward its citizens' hopes and dreams. As a citizen of Thailand, a founding ASEAN member, I am invested in the organization's success and concerned about its future. I believe that a continued retrospection by ASEAN leaders is necessary for the organization to remain reputable, respectable, and relevant to its own citizens. On reputation, the Myanmar crisis is a critical test for ASEAN's credibility in resolving regional challenges. While ASEAN principles of non-interference and consensus decision-making have fostered unity among diverse members, they have sometimes limited its ability to address significant internal conflicts. The situation demands a nuanced approach that respects member states' sovereignty while recognizing the need for intervention in extraordinary circumstances. Drawing inspiration from Malaysia's constructive intervention and Thailand's flexible engagement, ASEAN can evolve its mechanism to respond more effectively to crisis, suggesting a balance between non-interference and proactive engagement is achievable. The 5-point consensus on Myanmar is a step in the right direction, but ASEAN needs to be more assertive, amending the charter to allow exceptions in cases of extreme human rights abuses and humanitarian crises could provide a legal basis for action. Concrete, actionable plans with milestones are essential, encompassing immediate responses to violence and deeper engagement with economic development, power sharing, and nation building. By strategically redefining the bounds of its non-interference principle and proactively engaging in Myanmar's complex crisis, ASEAN can reinforce its centrality and credibility at the same time, setting a precedent for handling future regional issues and demonstrating that it is capable and adapting institution ready to address present and emerging challenges in Southeast Asia. On respectability, ASEAN must navigate the complex geopolitical landscape and manage the emerging great power competition in the region in order to regain the respect of its own citizens. The concept of ASEAN centrality, which positions the organization as an agenda settler in Asia, has been criticized for moving too slowly, like a bus driver struggling to control rowdy passengers. ASEAN needs to look into how it can be more effective in managing the new Cold War emerging in the region. Our Prime Minister has said several times that Thailand is a small nation. But I beg to differ. Thailand has the second largest economy in ASEAN. We are a middle power. And we will still have more leverage if we work together with other ASEAN members to ensure that no major wars occur in the region. By uniting and leveraging our collective strength with a population of 670 million people and several middle powers, ASEAN can increase and influence and dictate the course of this rivalry. Platforms like the East Asia Summit and the ASEAN Regional Forum can serve as venues to build confidence and understanding. And meanwhile, as the great powers seek to de-risk and decouple from each other, it will be countries like ASEAN that can capitalize on opportunities as firms relocate and supply chains shift. On relevance, ASEAN risks irrelevance if it can't address pressing issues like transnational organized crimes or transboundary hate affecting citizens all around the world, like scam operations in Myanmar and Cambodia have worldwide implications, and the US and China could work together on this issue. Transboundary haze from agricultural burning affects northern Thailand and other ASEAN countries. Despite existing agreements, ASEAN must demonstrate effective solutions, such as a proposed Transboundary Haze Act to hold polluting companies accountable across borders. These complex issues require ASEAN-level political will and cooperation from various stakeholders. As ASEAN stands at a critical juncture, our leaders must engage in contentious retrospection to ensure the organization remains reputable, respectable, and relevant, while the innovative proposals put forth by experts and forward-thinking officials are crucial, and many of you are in this conference today. It is a political will and audacity to enact these transformative policies that will ultimately determine ASEAN's success. Only through reforming the organization can ASEAN's leaders effectively address the impending challenges and cement the organization's position as a credible and responsible stakeholder on the international stage. As ASEAN stands at a critical juncture, our leaders must engage in continuous retrospection to ensure that the organization remains reputable, respectable, and relevant, while the innovative proposals put forth by experts and forward-thinking officials are crucial, and many of you are already in this conference today. It is the political will and audacity to enact these transformative policies that will ultimately determine ASEAN's success. Only through reforming the organization can ASEAN's leaders effectively address the impending challenges and cement the organization's position as a credible and responsible stakeholder on the international stage. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank Pita for his remarks. My remarks, unfortunately, are going to be butchered and reduced to an unfortunate minimum because I think we're running over time. Yeah, and there's a nod from the back of the room that confirms that fear. I did prepare, you know, some of you who know me well have heard me say there are two kinds of professors. There are professors that don't know when to shut up, and there are professors that do know, and I'm in the first category. So I will include a few fragments of this peroration with your permission, but I will not give you the whole thing. I will read a little bit at the beginning. Before coming to Stanford, I lived in Wisconsin, as Catherine mentioned. This is a subjective comment on my part, so please take it with a grain of salt. My colleagues and I in Wisconsin used to joke about residing in a flyover zone, the forgettable terrain beneath transcontinental plane loads of movers and shakers in the sky, commuting between the coasts, as if the humble farms of the Midwest could not compete with Silicon Valley and Hollywood on the one hand, Wall Street and the White House on the other. And I guess I say that because in a way, Southeast Asia historically has been a bit of a flyover zone, at least since flying over the zone became possible. In centuries past, Southeast Asia lacked a name of its own. It was merely, quote, behind India, unquote. but India was obviously the focus. Early in the 19th century, the Europeans who coined the term Indochina in effect reduced the subcontinental part of Southeast Asia to a mere hyphen between Indian and Chinese civilizations. As of the 20th century, different parts of Southeast Asia, as you all know, or most of you know, had been appropriated at different times for different lengths of time by American, British, Chinese, Dutch, Japanese, French, Portuguese, and Spanish overlords. And I go on to talk about the status of Southeast Asian studies. It is entirely understandable that Asian studies in the United States did not begin with Southeast Asia. It began with Japan. Some would argue China. There's a debate there that I won't go into. And as those two countries received the focus that they certainly deserved with the addition of Korea, and unfortunately I have to admit that often it was violence that propelled these areas into the headlines. One thinks of the Korean War, for example. And in Southeast Asia, unfortunately, one thinks of the Vietnam War. But that relative imbalance between the obvious importance of these big countries in what I call Northeast Asia, right, as opposed to Southeast Asia, naturally postponed the attention to Southeast Asia, which is one of the most diverse regions in the entire world. And in that context, with omitting a lot of this presentation, I do want to comment, if I could, on what you've just heard in the two videotapes. Both of them focused on ASEAN. The question is, I didn't ask them to, just said, whatever you want to say, you just go ahead and say it. And why did they do that? And one possible explanation, if they were here, they could perhaps disagree with me and correct me, but one possible explanation is that only by some sense of combination, of unity, would then one be able to create, in this case, a barely existing pseudo-nation, which is really stretching language, called ASEAN, right? ASEAN is not a country. It is an intergovernmental organization. The image here is that if Southeast Asia, if only Southeast Asia were not 11 different countries, but one single country, it's 692 million people would make it the third largest in the entire world, after India and China. Compared with the United States, the people of Southeast Asia are more than twice as numerous as their American counterparts, and the region is more than 1 million square miles of land and water larger than the United States. Now, that said, one has to admit that, you know, this is an invention of a Southeast Asia that does not exist legally as a national entity, but rather as a concatenation, if you will, of entities, of nations, of states. And apart from its size, I want to emphasize the diversity of Southeast Asia. Whether that diversity is measured by Southeast Asian cultures, economies, or politics, on virtually any dimension. And just because it's rarely discussed, let me mention one odd dimension, odd perhaps for this audience, certainly odd for me. Topography. What about Southeast Asian topography? It runs horizontally from landlocked Laos to archipelagic Indonesia, and vertically down the 55,000 feet that run from the peak of Gamlang Razi in Myanmar, the region's highest mountain, to the depth of the deepest waters in the Philippine Trench. I just thought I would toss that in. The sheer scale and potential clout of Southeast Asia, if it is treated as a single entity, compared to the potentially disabling diversity of its disparate member countries, helps explain why ASEAN, in Anwar's words, is the cornerstone of Malaysia's foreign policy. Conceived in this way, ASEAN helps make Malaysia matter. Southeast Asia as a region, he notes, as a region, is America's fourth largest trading partner. Now, PETA has a different view. I wonder if that's partly generational. I mean, we could discuss that maybe over lunch. For him, ASEAN needs to become more reputable, respectable, and relevant. ASEAN needs reform. And much of my conversation, my presentation focused on that. I do want to emphasize a couple of things that may have passed quickly by you as you listen to the video. He wants ASEAN to adopt a Transboundary Haze Act to stop the spread of smoke from peatland fires and slash and burn agriculture. Crosses over into other countries. Sometimes it comes from Indonesia. But ASEAN can't do that because it's not a single government. It doesn't have that kind of power. So he calls for ASEAN's leaders to engage in retrospection, which in my view is a version of introspection. ASEAN needs to be more assertive. Someone mentioned the difference between a cow and a horse. And I did write on this because there are two contrary views. I could go into the details, but I won't. One is that ASEAN will never be a horse. You can ride a horse. You can lead a horse. A horse can go in this particular direction rather than that direction. But a cow, you milk the cow. You milk the cow. Now, I won't explain in footnotes, what that might actually mean, but there is a division of view. And what's interesting to me is that increasingly, over the decades that I have worked on Southeast Asia, I have discovered that leading thoughts from leading thinkers tend increasingly to accommodate the horse view, which is my own view, that some of the problems, take for example Myanmar, this horrible, bloody civil war, which ASEAN is basically powerless to do anything about because of the non-interference principle. And you may have noticed in Pita's remarks a very sort of gentle, but I think to me convincing argument that it's time that ASEAN reconsidered the non-interference principle with regard to intervention, for example, in Myanmar to take care of this absolutely horrific civil war. Okay, I guess that's pretty much what I was going to say. I will end just on this note to emphasize that ASEAN's motto is one vision, one identity, one community. And I can't resist but saying that that echoes the Indonesian equivalent, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity and diversity, and America's E pluribus unum, out of many one. But these are general aspirational slogans. Today's conference will deal more directly with specific current issues and prospects in Southeast Asia, environmental, geopolitical, gender-related. Alumni of the Southeast Asia program will share their experiences. The economic and political futures of the region will be explored as well, and I hope you enjoy the day. Now, please don't applaud or anything like that. I don't deserve it. I want to stay here just for a moment to announce the Anthropocene panel, and I'll do so very, very briefly. We need the map of Southeast Asia, if you don't mind. I should have asked for that. These are the countries of Southeast Asia, showing you the diversity of the region. The panel you're about to encounter is the Anthropocene in Southeast Asia, 2 rivers. Its moderator is Rebecca Daro-Minarczyk, Assistant Teaching Fellow, Professor in Integrated Social Sciences at the University of Washington. She will introduce the topic, and she will discuss, and she will mention the 2 panelists. Rebecca, are you in the room, I hope? Yes, there she is. Okay, the microphone is yours. Thank you so much.